Mom 40 female cheated on stepdad 45 male and ruined my 16 male and my siblings' lives. I am a 16 years old male. I have 2 sisters 10 female 8F. Our biological father was never in our lives. He left my mom when she was pregnant with me. Came back 6 years later and said he wanted to make amends and that we could be a happy family. Somehow my mom immediately started saying that she loved him, but he left after mom got pregnant again. Then 2 years later he came back. I cried and begged my mom to not let him into our lives because I hated him. Well, he said the same thing. My mom also said she loved him and then he left after she got pregnant again. My mom was a waitress, so the 4 of us lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment. I was essentially another parent to my sisters because mom was always working. Sometimes, we wouldn't eat breakfast or dinner because we couldn't afford it. Other times, I did not eat anything so that my sisters could eat. My mom met another man 45 male a year after my youngest sister was born. He is a really good man. His wife and daughter had died in an accident a long time ago when he was in his 20s. He met my mom when he was ready to date again. He is a really good man and treated us like his own children, and I consider him my father. He was very wealthy and owned multiple businesses. We eventually moved into his huge mansion-like house. I also had a better school there. We 3 siblings got our own rooms and I got better clothes. Played video games for the first time in my life and a bunch of other things. He taught me things, helped me catch up in school because I could not do well in the previous school. He spent a lot of time with the 3 of us. My sisters eventually started calling him Dad. I followed shortly after. I remember him crying, hugging us and telling he loved us when we called him Dad for the first time. They eventually got married and Dad asked me to be one of his groomsmen, and of course, I said yes while my sister were my mom's bridesmaids. Mom stayed at home to take care of us. As far as I know, they were very happy together. They went on dates at least once in 2 weeks, kissed each other frequently and always told each other that they loved each other. He also knew about mom's past and realized she had issues and got her into counseling. I was really happy that my mom had finally found someone who treated her well. I was also very happy for myself and my siblings and really loved him. He also said that he would pay for college for the 3 of us. My dream is to become a doctor and I never thought it would be possible cause it was so expensive, and I was so freaking happy. Mom also told me she was very lucky to have found him and that she loves him and is very grateful of how he has made her and our lives better. Well, last year July Dad discovered that my mom was having an affair with his best friend who was also the best man at their wedding. Apparently, the affair was going on for a long time. I do not know exactly how long. Mom cried and begged him to give her another chance. He didn't. Understandably. He let us keep all the new things such as clothes for me and toys for my sisters. When I went to him crying and asking him why he was leaving us, he just hugged me and told me about mom's affair. He said the affair is too painful and that he cannot be in this marriage anymore, and then said that he loved me and my sisters. My sisters do not know about the affair. I do not think they will understand. He got a prenup, so mom did not get anything that wasn't hers. Dad just had to pay the rent of a new apartment until the divorce was finalized. We stayed in a decent apartment, but after the divorce was done we moved into a much smaller apartment. I tried to be in contact with him, but it does not seem like he wants a relationship with me. He has never responded to my messages. I sent a final letter to him last year December thanking him for everything he did for me and my sisters and that I loved him and would remember him forever. So now we're back to a 1-bedroom apartment. Skipping meals and barely being able to afford anything. I sleep on the floor now. My sisters share a bed while my mom uses another. Mom is a waitress again. I've also taken a part-time at a grocery store to help with money. I just hate my mom so much right now. I only took the job to help my sisters. I have also stopped talking to mom. Recently she came crying to me and told me that she was sorry for ruining everything and she wanted me to talk to her. I broke down and just said I don't understand. Why did you cheat on him? He was taking such good care of you and the 3 of us. He was also gonna send us to college. For the first time in my life, I was happy. You have destroyed my life. Why do you always have to ruin everything? You already did that twice when you let bio father back in my life. I hate you. I never want to talk to you again. She was crying a lot after I said that. I am gonna admit, what I said was pretty rude, but at that time I was just so angry. I just hate her so much right now. I just wish she dies a very painful death. These thoughts are the only things in my head. It's making me go insane and I know it's not normal. I read online that therapy would be useful, but we can't even afford food on most days, so we don't have insurance. All I can think about is how she ruined everything. He didn't even ask for much. Mom was living such a luxurious life and was just at home taking care of her own biological children. I just miss him so much. Even my sisters keep asking when they are going back home or when they'll see dad again. They've also started crying and asking for dad a lot of times this past year. I just don't know what to do anymore. I am so frustrated and just angry at everything. I wish I could run from here, but if I did, who would take care of my siblings? That stupid mother can't do shit. I guess I am here cause I need some help. I don't really know what to do. Some days, I am just so tired and don't want to do anything. Other days I just wished I died and all of this ended. Thank you. Please reach out to the guidance counselor and/or social worker at your school. See if there is any social assistance programs that will help you and your sisters, like SNAP, EBT, etc. My child's school has a food and clothing pantry, and a program that gives kids food packages to give them meals for the weekends. I am so sorry that your mother ruined your family's chance at happiness and stability. Also, maybe stick a post in the Poverty Finance subreddit to see if you can get any tips. They might have some advice on how to best utilize the money you're getting from your part-time job, and may know of some available resources to get you things for free or cheap in your country or state. Can't give you much advice on your family, but I'm a medical student and would be happy to walk you through the process of how college and medical school are still on the table for you and how it all works. PM me if interested. I am so sorry. Life can be so unfair. Your way out of this horrible situation is an education. Work hard at school and get into a good college. Don't worry about how it's going to be paid for. There are plenty of scholarships and grants. You still can be a doctor. Talk to your counselor at school about what's going on at home. There is a lot of help out there. You will be in my thoughts and prayers, buddy. Let me know if I can help. The feelings you have towards your mom are totally justified. She's selfish and self-destructive. The only person you and your sisters can rely on is you. Don't ever give up on your dream to be a doctor. Try to work hard in school to get a scholarship to a college to make that happen. You still have 2 years to do so. Try to talk to a counselor about your situation. Maybe there are food programs where you can get free food. Life is hard again for you, and that sucks. Don't let it discourage you to get ahead in life. Use this to fight for a better future for yourself. Be a good example for your sisters. When you're able to cut your mom out of your life, do so. And if you ever want to talk, you can always send me a message. I do pretty well in school. I am one of the best students in my school. My plan is to take some extra courses and then get a job and help my sisters to get to college. Becoming a doc is pretty much impossible now. One sister wants to become a doctor and the other wants to become a lawyer, so I plan to paying for their education. I can't do that if I have a bunch of debt and loans. Second story. Am I a gold digger? I'm mid-30s, divorced with a kid 12 in a beautiful relationship with T mid-30s who has 2 young children 4, 6. We enjoy mostly weekends together, as our kids are in different school districts. T and I have been together for almost 3 years. He hates our time apart and has asked me to move in with him a couple of times. I have said no. Moving in together when you have children, a big commitment for everyone. 2 months ago, he proposed. He told me he wants us to spend our lives together and not apart. We can grow old together and compare. Crinkly tattoos. It was really thoughtful and I cried a lot. I thought a lot about it and discussed it with my kid. After a couple of weeks, poor guy, I accepted on the condition we have a prenup and agree on finances and parenting ahead of moving in. I am a lawyer. This, dear Redditors, is where things fell through. Parenting, we agree on everything. Prenup, we agree we both lost a lot to our exes. Finances, we agree only up to a point. Here's the rub. He wants us to live in his house, with only his name on it. Mine is too small for all of us. Upon his death, everything that's his will go to his 2 children, including the home. I want us to buy a home, together with both our names on it. Upon one of our deaths, everything will go to the other. When we both pass, then the 3 children will equally inherit. This may be a cultural difference. In my family, nothing passes to the next generation until the previous has passed. In his, things pass down from the father and the kids take care of the mother. I am a lawyer and I frankly don't trust my future stepkids would do this, nor should they have to. It's expensive enough out there and I want them to build their own lives. For context as to why I feel we should pass to each other before our kids, this is how it's done in my family because, to be perfectly morbid, the people in my family live a ridiculously long time, mid to late 90s. In contrast, men in his family tend to pass in their early 70s. I have been saving for my retirement since my early 20s and am terrified about my future should I live this long alone. US healthcare. Folks, my divorce took most of what I had saved for retirement and I don't want to be a financial burden on my kiddos. Our points of view are so different. He suggested I am using him for money. We make similar incomes, by the way, middle class. I think he is using me. He wants to enjoy the benefits of a wife. The most intense is to have me help him raise his young kids, while not treating me and my kid as family. As soon as he's gone and he can't benefit anymore, I am on my own and worse, kicked out of our home, as it will go to his kids. I'd rather just keep dating and living separately as we have been to avoid this future jilting. He was hurt by this and really wants us to live together. He suggested I take a life insurance policy on him. I would absolutely do this, but it still doesn't sit right with me to have a partner not providing for you after they pass. So, Redditors, what do you guys think? Am I a gold digger? Could I be looking at this a different way? I value the feedback on this sub and I would like other points of view. Edit. Okay folks, I want to thank you all for your feedback. There are a lot of really good points, solid suggestions, and valid concerns both for me and for the kids. Some points on the difference between long and short-term planning are really valid, and I hadn't thought of that. One thing is clear: we need to buy a home together, as this is important to me. As far as how things are allocated from there, I agree with a lot of your suggestions, and we will meet with a financial advisor. I want his kids to feel provided for as well as my own. That being said, I don't want to treat any of the kids differently, so we will need to come up with something that treats them all the same. I have the best stepmom ever, so I have a good role model. All this to say, I hear your concerns all around. We will continue our discussions, and if we don't agree, we simply won't get married, at least not now. I don't need the stress. And to the Redditor who told me I need to be more compliant, my ex would agree with you, lol. You are not a gold digger. Keeping house together means tons of money invested in it, from both of you, plus attachment. I would not want to be kicked out at old age, and such small kids are definitely a task to raise. By the way, are both schools comparable? You going to put stress of changing schools on middle schooler, not on babies? And I don't see how buying house together with similar parts in down payment and similar payments is using him. If anything, living together he has more expenses on 2 kids, etc. Third story. My lecturer hired me as a naked maid and is uncomfortable now, but I need him to get over it. Too long didn't read. Lecturer hired a lingerie-clad maid through an anonymous service. I worked for the service and got sent over by accident, but didn't do it. It's been several months since and he's still uncomfortable around me, but I cannot avoid him or wait for him to get over it without compromising my studies. I am in my early 20s and he is at least mid-30s. I work for a cleaning service that offers nude or lingerie-clad maid service. There is no X or touching, and if boundaries get crossed, then the client is struck from the client list. The client can ask for a type, for example hair color, race, weight, age, gender, but they cannot pick a specific maid. Their maid is assigned by the company. Both client and maid have the option of using a fake name, and pictures of either party are not provided. Any institutions the clients and maids are linked to, for example school or work, are also noted so something exactly like this doesn't happen. All of this is done for confidentiality. Clients can request after the first session that the same maid comes back, but that's it. I am explaining this to show that it is impossible for him to have requested me or known it was me beforehand. I got a message from the company saying a nearby and anonymous client had requested a lingerie-clad maid and I was his type. I went in jeans and a t-shirt with the lingerie underneath so he didn't see anything. Knocked on the door, and my lecturer opened it. I realized what had happened and said that the agency typically filters these things out. Clearly there was an error, and I can stay and be professional or I can get him another maid, but whichever he chooses, we should both just forget this. He asked for another maid, so I called the office, explained, and left. The office says due to computer human error no one clocked that we are linked with the same school. I had to go into school a few days ago along with some classmates and we ran into him. He was awkward, uncomfortable, wouldn't look me in the eye, and refused to even directly address me. We ran into him again later that day and it was the same, if not worse that time. We also had some classes at the end of last academic year, after the mix-up where I ended up at his place, and I was similarly ignored, though I attributed this at the time to the online format of the classes. This would just be one of those things, except I have classes with him all next year, as well as private meetings with him to discuss my studies. These have to be done with him, are compulsory, and can affect my grade. While I know that I can act professionally, I am concerned that he cannot, as it has been several months and he is still not passed it. I am putting a lot of time and money into this, and if this is indicative of how he will act for the remainder of it, I feel I will not get what I paid for and that my grade will suffer. I do not know how best to progress. I cannot afford to let my grade come to harm, but talking to him might make things even worse. Any advice? As a college professor, I can assure that it is extremely unlikely that he will lower your grade because of what happened. The thing is that he knows that if he gives you a grade you didn't actually earn, you could then turn around and say that it's because of what happened. He doesn't want anyone to know what happened. There is supposed to be a line between the faculty and the students, and he's mortified that the line is blurred now. He's also embarrassed because now you know what he's into. You think that he's punishing you, but what he's really doing is attempting to protect himself because he's probably terrified that you're going to tell people about what happened. Believe me, he wants to forget the whole thing. Just go into the meetings and act like any other student would act. As a teacher, it's his job to be professional and ethical. He's not going to screw that up by giving you bad grades that you didn't earn. He's afraid that if the truth got out, it could destroy his career, and as someone who has spent many years in academia, I can tell you right now that it could. Just do the work, and instead of focusing so much on how he interacts with you, focus on just your own performance as a student. Clearly a lot of the people giving you advice here don't work in academics. I do. For the love of God, don't put anything in writing unless you actually want to get him fired. He is not going to give you a bad class participation grade if he is the one preventing you from participating by ignoring you. As for meetings with him, just meet for your degree the way you would if this had never happened. If you treat this brusquely and professionally, he will eventually too. If you must address it at the end of your meeting, while you're leaving, say, I would really appreciate it if you would keep what I do for a living to yourself. Obviously I am giving you the same professional courtesy. I would love it if we could pretend that incident never happened. Don't put anything in writing. For the love of God, do not show up to his house again, even to leave a note in his mailbox. That's how you progress into stalking. Don't do anything crazy to make him notice you in class. Offer to participate the way you always would. Do your meetings with him as if this never happened. Fourth story. My 48 female husband 49 male said I have to choose between our chronically ill daughter and him. My husband and I have two daughters. My older daughter is 20 and my younger one is 12. My older daughter started having a lot of hard to explain pain and cognitive problems starting when she was around 17. The alarm bells were going off in my head that this had to be something autoimmune, but doctors all gave us the runaround and said that she had anxiety, or that she was just tired or she was coming down with mild virus. At first, my husband was very sympathetic to the fact that our daughter couldn't get out of bed, wanted to sleep 12 hours a day, and went from varsity soccer to barely being able to balance down the stairs. He went to every appointment with us, where doctors seemed to be obsessed with talking to us about hormone levels. Slowly, however, I felt my husband seemed to have lost patience. After a visit with a doctor who leaned in and shouted, "You cannot test for things there are no physical signs of. That's crazy." He said that doctors knew best and stopped coming with us to appointments, and would sigh and leave the room. And I said that I was taking her to the doctor. Finally we found a doctor who didn't just straight up tell us that she was too young to have multiple sclerosis. After doing a battery of tests and ruling out things that they could rule out, the office diagnosed her with MS. After that, my husband apologized and said he was relieved to have a diagnosis. He began going to appointments with our daughter again. Our daughter suffered from so many debilitating cognitive and physical symptoms. Some days her nerves feel like they are out of control and on fire. I started off as my daughter's only caregiver. On top of it, I had to make sure that my younger daughter was still happy, healthy, help her with her schoolwork, drive her to her extracurriculars, attend events at her school, etc. I also did most of the cooking, cleaning, and errands in the family. I worked part-time remotely as a graphic designer and had to keep that up for the sake of medical bills. The doctor that was one of the only ones who wasn't dismissive of the possibility of side effects or belittling in general was an hour-and-a-half drive away each way. I was the one who drove our daughter. My husband started getting very bitter. He was disgusted after seeing our daughter throw up with him close by, and after that, avoided doing any caretaking duties. We hired a part-time caregiver and he would barely acknowledge her, and after a few weeks stopped asking about how our daughter was doing. My daughter had deferred her acceptance to college for a year, and after that decided to enroll in community college courses. My husband was angry and said, "Great, just great. There goes the possibility of a job with actual health insurance. I just can't deal with this right now. I used to make dinner from scratch a couple times a week and now we had to settle for pre-made meals." He'd walk into the kitchen and heave a sigh over the fact that it was pre-prepared. Frozen dishes again. He would do yard work and then get mad when I didn't randomly drop in and bring him food and a drink when he felt hungry. He'd look in the fridge, make himself a sandwich, and then sarcastically say thanks for the support. He demanded X therapy because he said he wanted X pretty much every day, and I am always tired and have dark circles under my yes. He loves playing golf, and one day one of his country club tournaments fell on a day where our daughter had to go to the hospital. He sighed afterwards and said everybody else had family and friends there. I needed you there. He got irritated when I told him insurance denied something and asked if we could talk about something else for once. Once he also demanded that we switch her care doctor to the one with very bad reviews but was only 5 minutes from home because he needed me there. He then started coming home at 2 a.m. I had to go away for 3 days because the startup I work for has occasional in-person meetings. I give him all the information regarding our daughter. I then come home to find out he missed several calls from the caregiver and he was an hour late getting our daughter to her appointment, which we were charged for. Then my daughter starts crying and tells me that on his phone she saw notifications for a bunch of Cash App transfers to a woman. She said she blames herself for ruining my marriage and that her dad has said multiple times that a marriage comes first before kids. I asked my husband what was going on and he admitted to cheating. In some of his messages he told the woman, who is 25, that she deserved the money and he wished he could give her more. My husband said that he has been miserable for a long time. He said our daughter was an adult and that it doesn't matter how sick someone else is because the two of us should come first. He said I was basically choosing one adult over our marriage and that was asinine, and that he does care about our daughter, but he always put me before that, and that's why he was not that involved in her treatment because he wanted to focus on the relationship between us first. He then said that our daughter was never going to get a good paying job, At least not one that would give her a life of comparable quality to what we were giving her. He also said that he knows she is smart, but that he doesn't think any man will ever end up wanting her to be his wife, even if she does earn enough and therefore will be stuck caring for her. He then said that I needed to choose between our daughter and him, because he looked into care facilities that are state funded and thinks that if we get her settled into one, our lives can get back to normal. He'll have his wife back, and we can go visit her. I told him that those places were suspect at best. He gets vindictive and said that the woman he was cheating on me with came from a family where her mother always made sure that they respected and appreciated their dad and took any childish impudence against their dad to be an insult on her as well. He asked why I couldn't even do a quarter of that and respect our marriage enough to see this was the only way we could have a constant ex-life again, where I could support him in his career, etc. Or else he could just give what he brings to the table to somebody else. I don't know if there is any hope in our marriage. I also don't know if, as an adult, I should tell our daughter about how her father really feels in case my husband ends up saying it to her at some point anyway. I wouldn't put it past my husband to try to slide this idea into our daughter's head. Our daughter already feels guilty and I don't want her to make decisions based on guilt. It is impossible to give my husband everything he wants and still have the responsibilities I have right now. Hit like. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to our channel.